reality, under his government, we lost a third of the North Sea's workforce. They failed time and time again to come up with a plan, and it falls to Labour once again to clean up their mess.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 5.
Secretary of State.
My honourable friend and I both know that the Tartan Army will be out in full force supporting Scotland's FIFA World Cup campaign this summer. The UK Government is working with partners in the host countries and the SFA to provide guidance to supporters on travel security and consular assistance. We are determined to help everyone have a fantastic and safe World Cup, hopefully beyond the group stages.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite fears of trade tariffs, I've checked, and the price of a pint of beer in Boston, Massachusetts, where Scotland are due to play their first game, is about $8 a pint. And that's a bargain, Mr. Speaker, because the SNP want to charge their fans £750 a pint to have a drink with the member for Aberdeen South, who unusually is not in his seat today. Now, I'm always open for a pint with the opposition, but would the Secretary of State rather have a beer in Boston with the Tartan Army or have a pint of bitter with the SNP?
Mr. Speaker, can I commend my honourable friend for his question? I'm not sure I'm going to be coming down the road to have a pint with the member for Aberdeen South anytime soon. In fact, come to think of it, I'd walk 500 miles to avoid having a beer and a blether with him.
Take my shot.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm quite surprised at that last question there, because one of the things that Scotland qualifying for the World Cup brings is a unity to the nation. We're all looking forward to Scotland competing for the first time since 1998, and we're all going to get selfies. It'll be us with the Tartan Army. Do you think there's any chance that we'll get a photograph with the First Minister and Anna Sarwar?
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, I just respectively point out that we qualified under a Labour government this time, and the last time when I was there in the Stade de France, it was a UK Labour government.
John Lowe.
Speaker, question number 6.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Scotland's hospitality businesses at the heart of our high streets communities are the engines of Scotland's economy. The UK Government has helped businesses across the country by stabilising public finances, focusing on driving economic growth and putting more money in people's pockets. In Scotland, of course, key levers such as rates, business development, skills and planning are devolved to the Scottish Government. So perhaps the honourable members in the SNP benches can explain why the Scottish Government has failed so miserably to support Scotland's hospitality sector in the way it deserves.
John Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I met with Nick and Trish, who own Burt's Hotel in Melrose. Like many other people have done, they explained the immense pressure they're under as a result of her government's jobs tax and the SNP government's eye-watering hike in business rates. So does the Minister think that the government's increase in employers' national insurance has helped or hindered the hospitality sector?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our changes to employers' national insurance were part of raising the revenue needed for the changes in public services from which his constituents will benefit, and mine, due to the record settlement for the Scottish Government. I would just say to the honourable gentleman, however, that protestations of fealty to the hospitality sector would ring more true had 7,000 pubs not shut under the Conservatives.
Yeah. Please, Patricia Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, any support for Scottish hospitality businesses is welcome. However, the recent Scottish budget simply tinkers around the edges, with many businesses still falling for a 400% tax rise hike. Does my honourable friend agree that a fundamental overhaul and redesign of the current system is required, and so that we can deliver a stronger economic growth in Scotland?
My honourable friend is, as usual, quite correct. Scottish businesses are facing eye-watering rate hikes while the SNP government tinkers around the edges of a fundamentally broken system. Meanwhile, Anna Sarwar has been clear. Scottish Labour would revive our high streets with a fundamental overhaul of business rates. Right now, jobs and businesses are at risk, and we want to reset the balance between our local businesses and the online giants.
Shadow Secretary of State, Andrew Barr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given the Secretary of State still expects us to believe the Prime Minister has faith in Anna Sarwar's judgment, it's quite clear the Labour Party can still have a laugh, but they do seem to have an aversion to having fun. why else would they be waging a war against Scottish pubs? Because just like Scottish Labour's election campaign, the sector in Scotland is hanging on by a thread. Last year, one pub in Scotland closed every single week. But it isn't just pubs, cafes, restaurants, chip shops, all facing the same. So will he and his Scottish Labour colleagues join Russell Finlay and the Scottish Conservatives in our call for a pubs and hospitality business to be exempt from business rates rises this year? And will he do what he can to ensure his government stands up for Scottish hospitality? That would surely be something to raise a glass to.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't know if the honourable gentleman heard me about the Conservatives' record. 7,000 pubs lost under their watch. A package of support has, of course, been presented by my right honourable friend for pubs in England by the Treasury, meaning that there is already extra money for the Scottish Government to spend in this area. So I would encourage Scottish Government ministers to step up support for the hospitality sector using the Barnett consequentials that this Government has already provided.
Right. Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, can I welcome into the gallery the Speaker of the Parliament of Fiji and the President of the European Parliament. We start with questions to Prime Minister Edega.
Number one, sir.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 4 years into Putin's barbaric assault, the courage of Ukrainians burns bright. We are extending sanctuary to Ukrainians in their time of need, providing the weapons and aid to support them in their fight for a just peace. We're degrading Russia's economy and planning for a ceasefire that protects Ukraine's sovereignty. That support will never falter. And yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I recommitted to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people that we stand with them in the fight for freedom, democracy and the values that we all hold dear. Mr. Speaker, let me also congratulate Team GB for their superb performance in the Winter Olympics. They are brilliant ambassadors for our country, and I know the Paralympics GB will also do us proud. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And may I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister in respect of Team GB and Ukraine. A great former Prime Minister once said, "U-turn if you want to, the lady's not for turning." Like the leader of my party today, she was a leader of principle and backbone. But we know this current government is no stranger to the U-turn. So given that, can I gently tempt the Prime Minister to add one more to the current tally to help get Britain working again by backing the fantastic shops and businesses in Melton Mowbray Town Centre and high streets across my constituency and beyond to succeed and grow by scrapping the government's business rate changes that will hit so many of them hard in April?
Well, it's good to see him in good form, particularly, if I may say so, after his health scare, which he and I have discussed a number of times. He discusses a former leader of his party. He was the former health minister, I think, who presided over record waiting lists. He was the former prison minister who left the prisons overcrowding. And he was the former economy minister under Liz Truss. We're picking up the mess and we're turning it around.
Rachel Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I very much welcome the fact that our Labour government has recognised the state of Palestine, and I also welcome the Foreign Secretary's statement last week as chair of the UN Security Council, setting out the UK's commitment to increasing humanitarian access to Gaza and advancing a two-state solution. Does the Prime Minister agree that protecting civilians, upholding international law and supporting Palestinian-led governments are essential for a lasting peace?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank her for raising this really important issue, because the ceasefire in Gaza remains fragile and protecting Israeli and Palestinian civilians is critical to the next phase of the peace plan. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of our commitment to a two-state solution. and we will be hosting the peace-building conference in March to build lasting peace and security for both Palestine and Israel. Hamas must decommission its weapons, destroy its terrorist infrastructure, and can have no future role in running Gaza. And Mr. Speaker, whilst aid flows have increased, the level of need is still dire, and the Israeli government must stop blocking supplies and preventing work of international NGOs. That is unconscionable, and it is costing Palestinian lives.
We come to the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate this side of the House with the Prime Minister's comments about Ukraine and Team GB? Mr. Speaker, before the Prime Minister and I became MPs, parties of every colour increased the cost of going to university. The system is now at breaking point for graduates. I believe the student loans have become a debt trap. It is time for all of us to do something about it. Will he cut interest rates on student loans?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have to say I was glad to learn that the Leader of the Opposition has finally admitted that they scammed the country on this. And that applies to everything they did in government. We inherited their broken student loans system. We've already introduced maintenance grants to improve the situation, which they scrapped. And we will look at ways to make it fairer. And we will do other things within the economy to help students. What other things they say? The news this morning, Mr. Speaker, 7 a.m, energy bills coming down by £117 for millions of families and young people struggling. That's guaranteed money off bills in April, driven by the action that this Labour government has taken. We promised to cut the cost of living. We are cutting the cost of living.
Mr. Speaker, I asked him if he would cut interest rates on student loans. No answer. And for the record, energy bills are still higher than when he came into office. He keeps talking about the last government. In case he hasn't noticed, my party is under new leadership. A lot of people wish his was too, including the backbenchers sitting behind him. But let's talk again about student loans and student fees even. Because to win the Labour leadership, yes, with Labour together, the Prime Minister promised to abolish tuition fees. In opposition, the Education Secretary said, graduates, you will pay less under a Labour government. I wonder what happened to those people. But can the Prime Minister tell us whether graduates are paying more or less under Labour?
Prime Minister.
Certainly many in her party are under new leadership, Mr. Speaker. They're up there. The only change she's brought to her party is to make it smaller. And she talks about interest rates on loans. Mr. Speaker, not only have energy prices come down this morning, but since we were last here across the dispatch box, inflation has fallen as well, which has a huge impact on interest rates. Fallen to 3%. And the Bank of England say it's going to keep on falling. That's only happening because of the decisions that we made at the budget, opposed by the party opposite. They talk about the cost of living. This government is taking action, and under their watch, inflation was 11%, which crippled the state of finances for students as their loan rates went up.
Mr. Speaker, I am amazed that while we're trying to talk about student loans, the Prime Minister has the cheek to talk about my party being smaller. His party is smaller too, including one MP who was arrested for child sex offences. So perhaps before he gets on his high horse, he should ask why his backbenchers are saying that they're being called the Pedo Defenders Party. Yes. So why don't we get back? So if he... Yes, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I know it makes them...
Yes. Sorry. OK, let's have less. No.
I know they don't like it, Mr. Speaker.
Does the honourable member want to leave at this stage? Just understand, I want to hear the question, because it's very important that I do hear, because I'm may have to make a judgment. So I don't need any more shouting.
I know they don't like it, Mr. Speaker, but I haven't said anything that's not true, have I? So perhaps, they should get off their high horse, stop making stupid jokes, and why don't we talk about student loans? Policies that may have been fine for 2012 with low interest rates are not fine for 2026. The fact is, graduates are paying more, not less. On Monday, the Schools Minister was asked on the BBC why Labour froze the repayment thresholds. She said the government has, and I quote, huge pressures. Those pressures have been created by his taxes and his borrowing to pay for more welfare. Why is the Prime Minister taking from students to give to Benefit Street?
What a nerve. Under their government, student loan thresholds were frozen for 10 years. 10 years. They broke the system. They did it with a bloke over there when they were in coalition together, and we're fixing it. Now, she used to say just a few weeks ago that she was going to focus on the economy at the exclusion of everything else. So I'm doing her a favour by bringing it back to the economy, because 117, desperate to talk about the economy, £117 off energy bills, inflation going down. The other thing that was confirmed on Friday, Mr. Speaker, borrowing is coming down, the biggest surplus on record. That means we've got the economy back under control. We're fixing the public finances. Now, I know the party of Liz Truss don't understand any of this, but she should welcome those changes when she next stands up.
Can they not?
Mr. Speaker, he says they're fixing the student loan system. How? He wasn't even talking about this until I raised it. The fact is, those policies...
And it goes for the row as well. Chair Select Committee expect a standard, not to shout somebody down. Ken Ben.
Mr. Speaker...
I don't need any back chat. Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. He's only talking about student loans now because I raised it. He says they're fixing the problem. The fact is, he's not. Why is it that I'm willing to ditch old Conservative policies that don't work and he wants to keep them? He's not going to do anything about it at all. On Monday, they voted to increase benefits yet again. The fact is, he is taking money out of the pockets of graduates and giving it to people who are not working. It is not fair. It is not just that he is saddling graduates with debt. It's not just that he is saddling graduates with debt. Yesterday, the Bank of England, yes, where she used to work in customer services. Yesterday, the Bank of England... Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the Bank of England said that his policies are fueling youth unemployment. That's not us, that's the Bank of England. For the first time ever, youth unemployment is now higher here than it is in the EU. And while he blames everyone else, our young people can't get jobs, they are losing hope and even leaving the country. Will the Prime Minister tell us how he plans to deal with it?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she says she's ditching failed Tory policies. It's a very long list, 14 years of list, and it starts with the word sorry. And when she says that word, we'll take her seriously. And Mr. Speaker, she talks about the Bank of England. The Bank of England have reduced interest rates 6 times. We've seen the fall in energy bills. Inflation is coming down. Borrowing is coming down. She hasn't welcomed any of that. I know she wanted to talk about the economy. She wants to talk anything other than the economy. Perhaps she'll welcome the surge in retail sales as well. People are spending more on our high streets because of the action that we took. Wages boosted for millions of workers, opposed by the party opposite. Free breakfast clubs, opposed by the party opposite. Free childcare, opposed by the party opposite. Every measure we're taking to improve the economy, what do? They oppose it.
Mr. Speaker, he is desperate to talk about the last government so that he can distract from the mess that he is making now. The fact is, he is the Prime Minister today. This is a man who got legislation in to fix his own pension, just him, no one else's. He won't sort out student loans for other people. He has no plan to get young people into work. He has no plan to help graduates get out of the debt trap. They can complain as much as they like. These are facts. 411 MPs, and not a single one of them has any imagination. We are the ones doing all the thinking. Yes, he has already... Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has already made 15 U-turns. Will he make another one next week at the Spring Statement to fix the student loans system?
She wants me to talk about this government. Bills down under this government, £117. Inflation down under this government. Surplus up, record. Resales down. She won't welcome the economic news, but the business community is welcoming the plan. Business confidence is up. The FTSE is at a record high. The President of the British Chamber of Commerce has said this is the year our economy can turn around. Her miserable strategy of talking down the economy isn't working because Labour's got a plan for Britain.
Can it be not?
Mr. Speaker, it'll only turn around this year if he stops being the leader. Perhaps they can do something about that. He wants us to welcome economic news. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to welcome the fact that youth unemployment is at its highest ever. I am not going to welcome the fact that unemployment has increased every single month under this Labour government. He is not doing anything about student loans because he is not governing. And he is not governing because he cannot govern. He is distracted by Labour scandal after Labour scandal. Mr. Speaker, even today now, there is an inquiry into the Inquiries Minister. That is all that they have offered since they came in. The defining moment of this man's premiership will not be breakfast clubs. It will be the sight of the man he appointed as ambassador to Washington just last year getting arrested. No wonder they're calling themselves all sorts of things. He needs to stop moaning about us and start fixing his useless government. Why should the country have to put up with 3 more years of this?
Yet again, she's shown why she is so utterly irrelevant. Harping from the sidelines, trying to talk down the economy.
Hello? Please, I want to hear the question, so do your constituents. Prime Minister.
All she does is carp from the sidelines, talk the economy down, talk the country down. In the meantime, because of our work, what is happening? Energy bills down, as announced this morning. Inflation down. Borrowing down. And what's up? Retail spending is up. Investment is up. Business confidence is up. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Residents in Stanley, in my constituency, are very excited about having their say on how to spend the £20 million of Pride in Place funding that Stanley South has received as one of the 250 most deprived neighbourhoods in the country. There are other villages and areas in North Durham that are too small to qualify for Pride in Place at the moment, but also urgently in need of investment. For instance, Grange Villa, New Kyo and the Avenues area of Chesterley Street. Will the Prime Minister consider an additional wave of Pride in Place funding to target smaller, more concentrated areas of deprivation?
Well, I thank him for that, and I know how meaningful Pride in Place investment is to his constituents. We're backing communities with the funding and the powers they need to invest in their priorities, which is unleashing jobs, growth and opportunity. In answer to his question, I can confirm that the next wave of Pride in Place will invest in an additional 169 neighbourhoods focused on smaller areas, looking closely at deprivation. We're reversing the austerity that ripped the heart out of our high streets and our communities and giving local people a real say over how money is spent.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Can I join the Prime Minister in congratulating Team GB on our most successful Winter Olympics ever? And can I also join him in solidarity with our Ukrainian allies and friends after 4 years of them resisting Vladimir Putin's war machine? Mr. Speaker, the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, has raised deeply shocking concerns that Jeffrey Epstein may have used British airports and even RAF bases to traffic young women and girls in and out of our country. This is appalling. The Prime Minister knows that I agree with Gordon Brown that there needs to be a full public inquiry into all this. If he doesn't agree with Gordon Brown, will he, at the very least, commit to releasing the flight logs and related documents? Will he wait for the House to force the government to do that?
Prime Minister.
Well, I think it's important to appreciate there's obviously a police investigation going on, and I think it's right, and I'm sure he agrees with this, that that has to go wherever the evidence takes it, and we have to let that investigation run its course before deciding what next action needs to be taken.
Sir Ed Davey.
I think we all agree that police investigations should take priority, but that doesn't rule out a public inquiry, and it certainly doesn't rule out releasing the flight logs, which I think really should be. Mr. Speaker, on a different note, it's been revealed the trustee of William Blake House, a care home for adults with profound disabilities, embezzled £1 million. There are very few homes in the country which offer this sort of care, and now it faces closure. As a father of a disabled son myself, can I tell the Prime Minister this situation is one of my worst nightmares? It's one of the worst nightmares of many parents with disabled adult children. The families of the residents have put forward a rescue plan to take over William Blake House and run it themselves. It will require HMRC resolving the debt issue and the Charity Commission to appoint an independent board. So will the Prime Minister meet with the families and back their plan?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising this case, which is obviously a cause of considerable concern, and of course I'll make sure that the relevant meeting is put in place for all of the individuals who need that meeting.
Mr. Speaker, given the recent challenges to the Equality Act, will the Prime Minister commit to protecting those laws which prevent discrimination at work and in society, making sure that women aren't fired for being pregnant and ensuring that everyone is treated fairly, regardless of their sex, race or disability?
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the Equality Act that was passed by the last Labour government. We will always fight for working people, and compare that to Reform, who want to go back to the dark days where people can be discriminated against because of who they are, ripping up protections for workers and renters, and ending the right for grieving parents to take a few days off work if the worst should ever happen to their child. But, Mr. Speaker, I also have to raise this. A death threat was shared by Reform's Deputy Council leader in Lancashire against the brilliant member for Bolsover. It said she should be shot. When death threats were made against the member for Clacton, I stood at this dispatch box and condemned them outright. If he has any decency or backbone, he will stand up, apologise, condemn the comments and sack the individual in his parties. Will he do so?
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the age of 14, Michel Mandarin was forcibly removed from his home, the coral atoll of Ile-de-Quoi, dumped on the quayside of Mauritius, forced to live on food scraps out of bins. He has resettled those islands and yet now faces a removal order from yet another Labour government. So maybe twice in one lifetime, he's going to be asked to leave his homeland. Can I ask the Prime Minister, for a government that is full of human rights lawyers, within and without, why do the opinions and human rights of indigenous Chagosians not matter to him at all?
Prime Minister.
So he has neither the decency nor the backbone to condemn a death threat to a member of this House, whichever party they are in. He doesn't have the decency or the backbone to condemn it and to sack the individual. And that just shows that his party have got nothing to offer the country but grievance and division. Look at their candidate in Gorton and Denton, a man who says anyone who isn't white cannot be English. No wonder he's been endorsed by Tommy Robinson. It doesn't represent our country, and anybody who wants to stand against that hatred and division should vote Labour on Thursday tomorrow in Gorton and Denton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister update the House on how the government is tackling the misuse of illegal drugs? And will he reassure parents in my constituency of Rugby and across the country that Labour will continue to disagree with the views and the voices of those who think that it is a good idea to legalise Class A drugs like heroin and crack cocaine?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising that? We are working relentlessly to tackle the supply of illegal drugs and expanding police powers to test more suspects upon arrest. The Green Party's policy isn't just irresponsible, it's reprehensible. Legalising, Mr. Speaker, cocaine, heroin, ketamine and the date rape drug GHB, a drug which we know is used to spike drinks for women. Now, whilst we're making that an offence, the Green Party's proposals would shatter lives, increase antisocial behaviour and see drugs use running rife. And I have to say, as the father of a 17-and-a-half-year-old son, the idea that the argument is being made by the Greens that when he turns 18 in just a few months, it would be lawful to provide him with heroin and crack cocaine is absolutely disgusting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister recently stated we will not allow the powerful to treat justice as optional. He was talking about Epstein's enablers. But my constituent, who uses the pseudonym Isabella, has asked me to ask the PM whether his words also apply to those who assisted Britain's Epstein and have made it out fired. A monster who, with others, abused her and hundreds of other women and girls in a human trafficking scandal that the Met, unlike the French authorities, are still refusing to treat as such. So will the Prime Minister ensure sufficient resources are committed to fully investigating this multi-perpetrator, multi-jurisdictional, multi-decade trafficking outrage and meet with Isabella and her fellow victims to understand the terrible scale of this shocking crime?
Well, can I thank you for raising this really important case on behalf of really important victims? And I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House are with those victims. Every report of sexual offence should be treated seriously. Every victim should be treated with dignity, and every investigation should be conducted professionally. The Safeguarding Minister is meeting the victims, and I will make sure that his constituent is part and included in those meetings. If he gives me the full details, I'll make sure that happens.
Imran Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we have all heard the horrific news that a man entered Manchester Central Mosque last night in this, the holy month of Ramadan, carrying weapons, including a hammer, a knife and an axe. Mr. Speaker, violent and Islamophobic attacks against the Muslim community are becoming far too frequent in our country. Prime Minister, is it not the case that every single politician in this place, and I mean every politician, especially that lot over there, Mr. Speaker, they may nod their heads, but this morning we could have woken up to a horrific terrorist attack, killing innocent Muslim worshippers only for being Muslim. Prime Minister, is it not the case that every single politician in this place and every single journalist has a responsibility to stop fanning the flames of hatred against the Muslim community?
Well, can I thank him for raising this really important case and tell him that I share his deep concern and the deep concern of the community over the incident at Manchester Central Mosque, particularly during the holy month of Ramadan. And we will not and must not relent in the fight against anti-Muslim hatred. We must not. Mr. Speaker, I remember visiting Peacehaven Mosque in the wake of the awful attack there. And when I did, I committed £40 million to protect mosques and community centres. It's a shame that we have to do that, but we do have to do it. And we're establishing a new fund to monitor anti-Muslim hatred and support victims. And I want to reassure my honourable friend and the House that we will fight hatred and protect freedom of worship in this country.
Lon Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bicester is one of the fastest growing towns in the country, but the town will be cut in two when rail services start between Oxford and Cambridge and the London Road level crossing closes. Campaigners were ignored by the Conservative administrations for over a decade, but today we're in touching distance of a solution. East West Rail has a detailed plan for an underpass, the Rail Minister is fully engaged, we have financial support from the County Council, and thousands of local residents have pledged £1 to go underground. So can the Prime Minister now confirm that the Government will back the plan and keep London Road open?
Minister.
I thank him, and I know he shares our support for East West Rail, which is a vital project that will deliver better journeys, tens of thousands of jobs and unlock up to 100,000 new homes. I agree that access to Bicester must be maintained. Access to Bicester Village must be maintained, my children say, as well. And I think the company have put forward two options on replacing the crossing, and I'll reassure him and his constituents that they will have the opportunity to express their views during the upcoming consultation into relation what would work for them. Thank you.
Jonathan Davis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The regeneration of the Belper Mills, a large site with buildings including Grade 1 listed ones dating from the start of the Industrial Revolution at the heart of the East Midlands' only UNESCO World Heritage Site, took a significant step forward last week when planning permission for its redevelopment and conservation was finally granted. The government wants to provide more housing, rightly so, and sites like this, though while very challenging, provide a very important opportunity to support that aspiration and share our national story. Can the Prime Minister tell me what support the government is giving to regenerate at-risk listed buildings and whether we are delivering support to train construction workers in heritage building techniques? And can I ask him to take a personal interest in the Belper Mills because it is an internationally significant site?
Prime Minister.
Thank you for raising this, because restoring Belper Mills is not just about delivering the housing his constituents want, but about restoring an iconic World Heritage Site in the East Midlands. We're investing over £1.2 billion in skills, supporting apprenticeships, including courses focused on heritage construction, and recruiting 60,000 more construction workers and backing new technical excellence colleges, so we have the workforce to build the homes the country needs.
Adam Downs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In January last year, Somerset received around 2,000 pothole reports. This January, it was nearly 7,000, a 250% increase. I recently stood on the Fossway in my constituency where one resident had blown a tyre and another one was checking the damage under his cars. Families and small businesses are paying the price. Rural counties like Somerset have some of the largest rural networks in the country, yet funding does not reflect that reality. Will the Prime Minister commit to fairer funding for rural areas so we can properly maintain and resurface our roads rather than constantly patching them up?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him, and I know how important it is that we fix the crumbling roads that we inherited from the party opposite. His county council will receive over £225 million as part of our £7.3 billion investment to tackle potholes. We're also implementing tough new standards, so councils have to prove they're fixing the roads properly, and delivering £78 billion for councils to ensure they can deliver excellent local services.
Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2024, 2.64 million animals were used in the UK in medical experiments. As chair of the all-party group in phasing out animals in medical research, I think it's important to note that an estimated 92% of drugs fail in human clinical trials, even though they have passed preclinical tests, including animal tests. Innovative non-animal research methods are increasingly available and provide viable alternatives. Whilst I very much welcome our Replacing Animals in Science strategy, for this to be meaningful, a robust implementation timeline must be set. I ask the Prime Minister to consider that we lead the way and start by introducing an immediate ban on the use of dogs in these often horrific experiments.
Well, can I thank her for her dedicated work on this, and we are committed to phasing out animal testing wherever possible. Last year's strategy, backed by £75 million, will accelerate new alternative testing methods. Alongside banning puppy farming and introducing stronger standards for zoos, we're ensuring the UK is a world leader in animal welfare.
Robin Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2014, a man in my constituency was ambushed, violently beaten with a pickaxe handle and left lying in the street with serious injuries. At the time of the conviction, the judge called it a brutal attack. Mr. Speaker, many constituents have contacted me to express their concern that the perpetrator of this attack is still a sitting Labour councillor in Keighley and was recently pictured celebrating an election with convicted crack cocaine and heroin dealers. Prime Minister, on behalf of all victims of serious crime, will you, as the leader of the Labour Party, ensure that Councillor Mohsen Hussain is not permitted to stand in the local elections this May?
Prime Minister.
I thank you for raising this. I will look into it straight away and give him a full answer.
Sir Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Mr Fenton Glenn, you're getting carried away with some other colleagues behind you. Mr Davis and others, please. Sir Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, I need your help. Today, alongside leading trade bodies, including UK Hospitality, the Federation of Small Businesses and the Startup Coalition, I am launching the TNT Charter, the Trust and Transparency in Business Energy, to blow up the status quo and support SME access to fair contracts, clearer pricing and stronger accountability. I know that the Prime Minister recognises this as an issue, so can I ask him to deploy powers to bring greater transparency, fairness and competition to the Wild West that is commercial energy?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we inherited the highest industrial energy costs in Europe because of the failed policy of the party opposite. Our British industry supercharger is cutting bills for major industries, but she's right to champion the SMEs as well. I can confirm we will appoint Ofgem to regulate and stamp out exploitation by third-party intermediaries, helping to reduce bills, and I'll make sure that she gets a meeting with the ministers to discuss the issues that she's raised with me.
Stephen Guthrie.
Mr. Speaker, even the embarrassingly loyal Scottish Labour Party seem to have lost confidence in the Prime Minister. Can I say to the Prime Minister, please don't let that put you off coming and campaigning in Scotland on your government's record. But can he tell us why is it that those who are so close to him have abandoned him, given the government's record?
Prime Minister.
I remember when they used to sit down here, didn't they, before the election, Mr. Speaker, and now they sit up there because we won the general election in 2024 with a landslide majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From this April, Springside Special School in Rochdale will open its first ever free breakfast club. That's a big change enabled by this Labour government, and one that the head teacher, Mrs. Fierro, said will make a big change to all the parents and children at her school. But Rochdale's growing popularity and growing population desperately needs a new secondary school. So will the Prime Minister arrange with me to have a meeting with the DFE to get our secondary school over the line to help all children in mainstream and in SEND get more provision?
Well, we're determined to halve the disadvantage gap and give all children the best start in life. I'm delighted to see a free breakfast club opening in his constituency in Rochdale. Our actions will lift over 500,000 children out of poverty, and the party's opposite policy is to say they'd plunge them straight back into poverty, which is disgraceful. And through our actions to reform the SEND system, we'll create an inclusive system so that every child can go as far as their ability and talents will take them.
Roger Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you will recall that some months ago I asked the Prime Minister why, as the Director of Public Prosecutions, he did not bring charges against Mohammed Fayed for rape and for assault. And the Prime Minister replied that this did not cross his desk. I understand that the Met Police delivered 2 dossiers to the Crown Prosecution Service. So if the Prime Minister didn't see them, who did? And could he tell the House when he expects the Metropolitan Police to bring charges against those who aided and abetted Fayed?
Prime Minister.
I stand by my answer. Hundreds of thousands of files are submitted to the Prosecution Service every year. It is important that the investigation is going on. I can't tell him when the decision will be made or what the decision will be, as he well knows. But it is important that every allegation is properly investigated and properly dealt with according to the law.
Final question, Kelvin Baird.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 4 years after Russia's illegal invasion, Britain backs Ukraine's fight for freedom. The same freedoms that Labour used to forge NATO to defend. But while Ukraine fights to join NATO, the Green Party wants to break it up. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that as war continues and as Russia broadens its attacks across Europe, those who attack NATO are betraying our security and, to coin a phrase, are they becoming Putin's useful idiots?
Well, my honourable and gallant friend is absolutely right. Our support for Ukraine is unwavering. And yesterday, I chaired the Coalition of the Willing Call and announced new sanctions to weaken Putin's war machine. The Greens, by contrast, want to pull out of NATO and negotiate with Putin our nuclear deterrent. And Reform are still parroting Kremlin talking points after their leader in Wales was jailed for taking Russian bribes. Both of them are weak on NATO and soft on Putin.
Can please Prime Minister's questions. All no points of order come after we've done the urgent questions and statements, so we're not going to change the policy of the House, because we now come to the urgent question. Nigel Farage.
Thank you. To ask His Majesty's Government to give us an update on the situation with regards to the Diego Garcia American military base and the British Indian overseas territories, especially in the light of the recent comments of the American